Okay, so after a few weeks of more or less classy productions, I arrived this week at a movie that has been dismissed by some as an unpleasant ball of exploitative trash. And yeah, I don't disagree, but that doesn't make it worthless. The Last House on the Left was created by Wes Craven and Sean Cunningham, and it is a bitter, ugly portrait of human misery that led many people to reasonably ask, why would anybody want to make a movie like this? I say consider the times. The movie was released in 1972, just after the breakdown of the production code, which allowed filmmakers to explore content previously considered taboo. Movies are always a product of the times in which they are made, and these were indeed bizarre times. This was the decade that started with the trial of the Manson family and ended with the tragedy of Jonestown, and in between gave us the Vietnam War, the Munich Olympic Massacre, the Kent State Killings, Son of Sam, and the Zodiac Killer. Given that, it's not surprising that someone would birth something as effectively revolting as this. Based loosely on Bergman's The Virgin Spring and inspired largely by television footage of Vietnam, Last House on the Left gives us Mary and Phyllis, who are on their way to a rock concert and come across a trio of escaped convicts who kidnap them, rape them, and then drag them into the woods where an unsettling amount of time is spent watching the girls humiliated, tortured, and then brutally murdered. It's bad. I mean, their organs ripped out. The whole thing is mean, cruel, heartless, unsparing, unforgiving. I really get why people are upset. For me, it's the kind of scene where afterwards I need to go outside and take a walk around the yard just to clear my head and maybe feel the sunshine on my face. So what is the value of all this? The scenes of rape and torture and murder in this movie are so real and so painful that I think it kind of brings to question the nature of movie violence. This is human degradation brought to its extreme, but how different is it really than Eastwood or Stallone mowing down people with guns? Or Friday the 13th, which uses music and clever editing to play brutal murder for sport? These movies use the tenets of filmmaking to avoid the uglier elements of violence and death that Last House on the Left sees head on. They all do exactly the same thing, only the approach is different. Real violence involves blood and gore, and mourners left behind, racked with sorrow and grief and a volley of unanswerable questions. The movies don't usually show us that, but it has always occupied a logical place in my mind. Murder doesn't have an ending. There's no punctuation on it. Something is always left behind. I kind of wish Last House on the Left had ended that way. The back half of the movie, in which the parents of one of the girls gets revenge on the killers, feels like a mechanical ending to a very organic movie. It turns the reality into a fantasy, and for me, it's kind of the wrong approach. This is not in any way a perfect movie. It was the first film for Craven and for Cunningham, and its misshapen structure came out of the fact that they didn't really know what they were doing. The narrative is maddeningly uneven. There are slapstick bits here, like a kazoo medley, and later a bit with a chicken truck, and it's just kind of confusing. But the value of The Last House on the Left is that it raises a lot of questions, a lot of issues about why we're so interested in violence as entertainment, and I think it reveals that violence becomes more tolerable the further back away from it we stand. Think about that the next time we indulge in Forensic Files or Unsolved Mysteries, or Die Hard, or any of those cozy mysteries at the bookstore. Ask yourself, what is really the difference? To what degree do we find it entertaining? For Armchair Cinema, I'm Jerry Dean Roberts. I'll see you next week.
To avoid fainting, keep repeating.
It's only a movie. Only a movie. Only a movie.
Take as much as you can.
Only a movie.